Alright, let's talk about how this year's Game Awards got completely flipped on their head, because once GTA 6 slid into 2026, the entire 2025 race went from, yeah, this is locked, to, okay, now we actually have a fight. Everyone expected GTA 6 to walk in, dominate the show, grab all the headlines, and moonwalk out with Game of the Year. Then, boom, delay. December 11th suddenly became wide open. Or at least, that's what we thought. Because fast forward to now, and one game has basically said, nah, I'm still taking everything. Clair Obscur. Expedition 33 is on a straight-up warpath, and I'm not kidding when I say this. The predictions right now are absolutely wild. The expectation is that Clair Obscur walks away with around 10 awards. 10. That's insane. That would break the record set by The Last of Us Part 2 back in 2020. And what makes this even crazier is that basically every other game is predicted to only win once. Arc Raiders, Hades 2, Ghost of Yotei, Silksong, Mario Kart World, all fighting for scraps, while Expedition 33 potentially cleans house. Even Kojima might go home empty-handed this year, which feels illegal in the laws of gaming. So what's actually happening here? Why is Clair Obscur that strong? First off, it's the full package. Heavy story, strong performances, tight combat, beautiful visuals, serious emotional weight, and it came from a relatively small debut team. That underdog factor matters way more than people realize. On top of that, it landed 12 nominations. 12. No game has ever done that before. On prediction markets, it was already sitting above 80% before nominations even dropped. Now, it's over 90%. At this point, the only thing that could stop it is voters getting cute and trying to spread the love. That's it. There's basically no real weakness here. Now, behind it, you've got the rest of the battlefield, and this is where things get interesting. Hollow Knight Silksong is sitting in second place, but let's be honest, it's a distant second. It made a massive splash, probably the loudest cultural impact of any 2025 game, but it's also brutally hard. A lot of players bounced off it. A lot of critics bounced off it. And that kind of divisive difficulty absolutely shows up when a big jury starts voting. It only pulled 5 nominations too, which doesn't help. It's respected, it's loved, but it's not sweeping anything. Then there's Death Stranding 2, Kojima's big, weird, ambitious sequel that somehow managed to be both more accessible and even more unhinged at the same time. It's bigger, it's prettier, it's technically ridiculous, and it carries that auteur magic that the Game Awards jury absolutely eats up. 7 nominations is huge, and historically, the jury loves Kojima. The problem is, this year's frontrunner is just too strong. Death Stranding 2 feels like the classic prestige contender that would normally take it in a weaker year. Hades 2 is next, and this one is fascinating. It's actually the best reviewed new game of the year. 95 on Metacritic, 94 on OpenCritic. That's elite. The original Hades lost to The Last of Us Part 2 back in 2020, and a lot of people still think that was a robbery. There's absolutely a world where the jury tries to correct history here, but the problem is early access. People have been playing Hades 2 for over a year. It feels familiar. It doesn't feel like a new shock to the system anymore. And action roguelikes just are not the genre the Game Awards usually crown. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is sitting there like the sleeper pick. Big hardcore RPG, no compromises, deep systems, realistic medieval setting. This is very much the kind of game that core gamers respect the hell out of. Think Witcher 3 energy. But it's also long, demanding, and not everybody on the jury actually finished it. On top of that, Warhorse still carries some old political baggage that might quietly work against them. It's respected, but it's not bulletproof. And then you've got Donkey Kong Bonanza. And look, it's a great game. High scores, great destruction mechanics, fun energy, but family platformers almost never win Game of the Year. Astro Bot did last year, and that already felt like a miracle. 2 in a row is just not happening. Plus, it only got 2 nominations total. That's usually the kiss of death. Now, outside of Game of the Year, this is where Clair Obscur really starts padding the stat sheet. Best RPG is basically locked. Best art direction, best score and music, best narrative, best game direction, all leaning heavily toward Expedition 33. The music in that game has been a fan favorite all year, no debate. And the narrative category almost never lines up with GOTY winners. gamers. But when one game dominates this hard, it pulls everything with it. The only place it might actually lose is Best Audio Design, and that's likely going to come down to Battlefield 6 versus Ghost of Yotei. Battlefield tends to clean up in sound categories traditionally, but Ghost of Yotei's production is so lavish that either one could take it. Best Action Game is a bloodbath. Doom, Battlefield, Ninja Gaiden, Hades 2, Shinobi. That's not an easy call. Action Adventure is just as messy with Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, Silksong, Indiana Jones, and Split Fiction all fighting it out. Honestly, if Silksong is going to win anything big, it's probably here. Best Fighting Game is actually kind of depressing this year. Fatal Fury might win by default because it's basically the only brand new full release in the category. The rest are collections or early access. That says a lot about the state of that genre right now. Best Family Game looks like a Donkey Kong freebie. Best Sim Strategy is leaning toward The Alters. Best VR is actually stacked for once, and The Midnight Walk has serious momentum purely off its claymation art style alone. Player's Voice is almost certainly going to clear Obscure 2. It already proved it can mobilize a fan base by winning fan-voted awards earlier in the year. That question mark is gone now. Best Ongoing Game turns into the Fortnite versus Marvel Rivals showdown. And as weird as it sounds, Fortnite feels like it has more momentum right now than the newer game. The Simpsons update alone carried insane goodwill. Best Adaptation is basically Minecraft Movie versus The Last of Us Season 2. And even with the controversy around Last of Us, prestige TV usually beats crowd pleasers at these shows. And of course, most anticipated game is GTA 6. Again, no contest. Even delayed, even pushed out, even with people salty, GTA 6 still runs that category like it owns it. Which, let's be real, it kind of does. So when you zoom out and actually look at the whole board, this year's Game Awards stopped being about uncertainty the moment Claire Obscure locked in those nominations. GTA 6 leaving the room didn't create chaos. It created a vacuum that one game completely absorbed. What should have been the most unpredictable year in a decade has somehow turned into a possible historic sweep. And that's the wild part. We might be watching a brand new studio walk into the biggest stage in gaming, their very first major project, and rewrite the record books in one night. That doesn't happen, almost ever. Now, the only real question left is this: do the voters play it straight and let history happen? Or do they get cute and try to spread the love just to avoid one game taking everything? Because if they don't, December 11th is about to become the Claire Obscure Awards, featuring a bunch of cameos.
Living things can't help but change, you see. They can't stay the same forever. That's what living is. To change and
New God of War, Star Wars KOTOR remake returns, Super Mario Odyssey 2, Bloodborne 2, Intergalactic with a 2026 release date, Half-Life 3, Max Payne remake, Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, Elden Ring 2, The Elder Scrolls 6. That is the list. That's the kind of list that makes your heart beat faster and your brain immediately go, there's no way all of this is real. So let's slow it down and run through this one by one, what's actually possible, what's shaky, and what's straight up fantasy fuel. Let's start with God of War. This is one of the few on this list that actually feels realistic. Santa Monica Studio has been quiet long enough that something is cooking. Now, am I expecting some massive God of War Ragnarok 2.0 moment? Probably not. But a spin-off, a new saga tease, maybe even a young Kratos project or something experimental tied to another mythology, that's very plausible. If Sony wants a mic drop moment at the Game Awards, God of War is still one of their safest nuclear options. Now, Star Wars KOTOR remake. This one hurts, man. This project has been dead, revived, rebooted, transferred between studios, buried again, dug up again. It has become gaming folklore at this point. Could it resurface? Yes. Do I expect it to? I'll believe it when I see gameplay running on real hardware. Until then, this one lives in the please don't break my heart again category. Super Mario Odyssey 2. Look, Nintendo moves in silence, always. When they announce Mario, it's usually close to launch and already polished within an inch of its life. A sequel absolutely makes sense for the next Nintendo system era, but showing it at the Game Awards? That feels unlikely. Nintendo usually keeps their biggest cards for their own directs. Not impossible, just not their style. Now, let's talk about Bloodborne 2. This is the one that could set the internet on fire in 5 seconds flat. A single logo would break the internet. But here's the hard truth. There is still zero official confirmation that Bloodborne 2 even exists. From Software is busy, Sony hasn't said a word, and every year we repeat the same ritual like it's a sacred chant. I want it, you want it, but right now, this one still lives in the dream tier. Now, Intergalactic. Not a rumor, not a theory. This is a real Naughty Dog game, a brand new sci-fi IP. That part is locked in. The shaky part is the 2026 release date. Recent insider chatter points to it being later than that, not earlier. Naughty Dog games take time, always have. Could we see a proper cinematic trailer or a deeper reveal at the Game Awards 2025? Absolutely. A firm 2026 launch window, though, that's starting to look optimistic. A reveal is realistic. A 2026 launch is the risky bet. Now we enter the danger zone. Half-Life 3. Every single year, this gets whispered like it's a forbidden name. And every year, nothing. The technology is finally there. Valve absolutely could do it, but will they? That's the question that's haunted the industry for nearly 2 decades. If Half-Life 3 shows up at the Game Awards, the gaming world collapses into a black hole of hype. But realistically, this is still a long-shot miracle scenario. Max Payne remake. This one is actually way more believable than people think. Remedy is deep in the remake business right now, and Max Payne is one of the most requested reworks in gaming history. This wouldn't shock me at all as a proper reveal. A cinematic teaser, no gameplay, just atmosphere and that noir tone. This is quietly one of the more realistic entries on your list. Now, Assassin's Creed 4 Remake. Black Flag has been rumored for years now as a potential remake because of how beloved it is. If this showed up, I'd nod and go, yeah, that tracks. This one sits firmly in the possible category. Now let's hit Elden Ring 2. This one is tricky. Elden Ring is one of the most successful games ever made, but From Software usually doesn't rush sequels like that. They expand first, they experiment, they move sideways before moving forward. A full Elden Ring 2 reveal this soon would be aggressive. Not impossible, but aggressive. If anything, I'd expect a smaller teaser or a From Software surprise project before a full sequel announcement. So when you zoom out and look at the whole list, here's the reality. The most realistic candidates for the Game Awards 2025 are God of War in some form, Intergalactic as a major Naughty Dog reveal, Max Payne Remake, Assassin's Creed 4 Remake. The risky but possible tier is KOTOR Remake, Elden Ring 2, and the internet-breaking fantasy tier is Bloodborne 2, Half-Life 3, The Elder Scrolls 6, with anything meaningful. This is one of those classic Game Awards setups where expectations are dangerously high. And every single year, the internet sets itself up for heartbreak because it expects 10 nuclear announcements instead of 3 real ones. But here's the thing, it only takes one surprise to make the whole show legendary. So now I'm throwing it to you. If only one of these 10 actually shows up for real, which one would you bet real money on?